on Broadway. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another stimulating conversation live here in my studio. Great to have you back. Hopefully, no tech issues as usual, but we'll get through it together. Don't you worry. Saturday night on the internet, I believe it's July what, 19th? And I will be going dancing later tonight. It's not going to be all night. Hello, Tony Fu is here. Tony Fu and Baldwin. We're back, baby. We are so back. We're back, baby. Hold on. Tony Fu. Now, Tony Fu, with a name like that, you sound like you might be Cantonese? Or is that just a kind of a funny name? If you are Cantonese, I've been to Hong Kong several times myself. Tin Sa Shui. Those were some cool experiences. Kowloon is really fascinating. I'd say Kowloon is really more interesting than Hong Kong in many regards. Tony the Tiger. All right, I'll buy that. What's shaking, Tony? How's your weekend kicking off? All right, we're gonna do some kick-assery here. It's got quite a fight scene we're heading into here, folks. Ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, a lot going on, as usual. So there's a certain kung fu involved in inking and talking at the same time. And sometimes I have to slow down a little bit to concentrate. This is a nice respite. Oh, okay. Well, cool, man. I'm glad you can take a little break. You know, all work and no play makes Tony a dull boy. You can't let that happen. Okay. What kind of music do you like, Tony? Just curious, because I'm playing some tunes in the background here. Hello to Brandon. Welcome, Brandon. I've had a couple different Brandons in the chat. Have you been here before, Brandon? Not sure which Brandon you are, but welcome. All right, we're doing some action sequence comic book inking. It's Saturday night. I'm very excited because I'll be going dancing a little bit later. And this weekend is a big house music weekend for me. Tonight's just like another night kind of thing, the usual DJs and local stuff. But on Sunday, there's a huge outdoor music festival thingy that I'm going to. So I'm really excited about that. It's going to be a good time. Good times. Nothing like having something to look forward to. Okay, Brandon says, okay, all right, well done. Do Batman. Oh, that Brandon. Okay, now I remember who you are. Okay. Hattori Hanzo swords. Wow, man. Hippocratic Oath knows his shit. Did you, Hippocratic Oath, have you ever done Japanese martial arts? It sounds like you might actually know a thing or two. Am I right? Um, I've only been exposed to like Chinese style swords and that kind of thing, just because I'm a kung fu guy, you know? Kung fu guy. Oh, yeah. It's kind of tough being a kung fu guy in America because most martial arts are not kung fu here. They're something else. And you even get like these kind of assholes on the internet that are like, oh, it's bullshit. It doesn't work. And you're like, oh, God. The internet is basically like a gigantic place where people who have no experience in something are experts on those things, you know. It's like, oh, okay. I did have the idea of maybe doing some more like fight video commentary videos. When I did that a while back, oh man, I got a lot of hits. Like it just got tons of hits. I'm not doing a martial arts channel, you know, but I don't know. You know, it just it's a thing. You know? Speaking of martial arts videos or fight videos, there's one that is a kind of a it's going around. I don't know, I call it viral, but it's going around in our spheres, and it's in the subway in England somewhere. And there's a dude. I guess he's probably with his wife, and he was carrying a like maybe a 2-year-old child, and the wife has like a newborn infant. Excuse me. And a black guy came up and like punched the guy holding the 2-year-old, which caused him to drop the child. And the father and a guy standing by fucking slammed this black guy to the ground and just started beating the fucking shit out of him. And this is like right on a staircase, you know, in a subway, you know. And everybody who sees the video, their blood just boils. Like, you know, I hope they fucking, you know, blah 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 blah. I mean, you know, we see videos all day, every day of black people abusing whites, not just blacks, Muslims, and the rest of it. And the idea of like, you know, guys in the subway holding his child, and this dude, this I don't want to say the N word, but he comes up and like punches him, causes him to drop his child. I would fucking go ballistic on somebody who did that to me. I would just unleash the hounds of hell on that person. I mean, it would be like unstoppable. And I know any dad, any father would do the same. It would you just go full primal, like totally primal on a piece of shit like that. Anyway, I don't want to get in sort of rage post too much here, but you can imagine. Um, it's kind of the thing of it, though, is like, oh, look at this guy. He's holding a child. He's what's the word? Vulnerable. You know, oh, I'll go after him. You know, bye, says Brandon. Yeah, yeah, right. If I can't troll you, then I want to leave. Bye. Um, get a life is more like what needs to happen here. But There you go. Anyway, moving on. Tonfu says, and most kung fu in the U.S. is meh. Well, yes and no. I mean, I've had the fortune to be able to go to really, really good, authentic schools. They're very hard to find, though. I hate to say it, but like I'll only go to schools that have Chinese teachers because I don't know what it is, but like a lot of these American teachers, they just have like a McDonald's mentality about teaching, and they what they're doing is they're selling you Orientalism. They're kind of like, like for example, there's no belt system in Chinese kung fu, but like, oh no, in order to join this school, you have to buy a uniform, and they, you know what I mean? They just turn it into a kind of a business. You'll have you can you have tests and things, but it's not the Chinese way. Like you don't tell your opponent how good you are. It doesn't. Martial arts wise, think about it. It's like, oh, that guy's a blue belt, so and I'm a brown belt, so I could easily beat him. Like that's just that's a something about Japanese culture. They're very much about what's it called, hierarchy. Senpai kohai hierarchy, and it's just a part of their culture. Um, we don't do that, and so, but if you can count to 10 in Japanese and wear a fancy gi, then you must be amazing. Yeah, and Americans fall for that Orientalism. Just go to any Chinese restaurant and see the shit food that they're feeding you. The Chinese don't eat that. They don't eat that. That's for you. Anyway, it kind of annoys me because it's like, why don't you just give us your food? Like, why? Who decided that? Oh well, Americans won't like this. That kind of annoys me, but I won't let it bother me. Anyway, most Kung Fu Baldwin, Brandon by Hale Brothers. All right, Corey's here. Good to see you, Corey. What's shaking? Craig is here. Hey, Craig. Yeah, prog rock. Yeah, I got a little prog rock in the background here. I'm on a mission to try to find some kind of music that doesn't have commercials on YouTube. And I can remember in the past that this album usually plays through. So hopefully I'll get my wish come true. Let's hope. But what's new with you guys? What's new and interesting? Let me ask you this: do you think that anyone still trusts the government after they denied the existence of the Epstein files? Here's an interesting thing. The Colbert Report, whatever that show, that just went off the air. Sorry, I'm off camera. Um, I saw a report on that. They were actually commenting on it on CNN and saying like what a terrible thing that it is politically. Of course, the show is pretty much propaganda. Um, and they were saying how like the timing is really bad, and it's just like another defeat, for the left kind of thing. But the reason they cited was that the advertisers all pulled out. Like his numbers are, excuse me, so low that the advertisers aren't paying money to have their commercials on during his show, and that's a fantastic sign. That to me is a really, really great sign of progress. You know what I'm saying? That you know, that like the left is sort of mute, that it is irrelevant. You see that people aren't buying the bullshit, and that not enough people are buying the bullshit, if you want to put it that way. Um, it's a good sign, you know. It's a good sign. Um, it's not, you know, it's not like, oh yay, hallelujah, we won. It's not. It's not. I'm not saying that, but it's certainly something that you can celebrate. You know, perhaps there's others that'll take his place or some shit. You know. Um, but yeah, there it is, and there you go, and now you know. I I'm really really pleased to see that he's gone. You know. And you gotta ask, like, well, what are they? If people aren't watching that shit anymore, then what will they watch? You know what I mean? Um, you know, it's like they dug John Stewart back out of the grave to have him like, oh, we're losing control of the narrative. We got to get back out there. You know? Yeah, it's insidious. You know, you have these small hat tribe people that pretend to be us and have been pretending to be us for so long, and then setting the kind of, or trying to kind of manipulate public opinion standards for things. Um, I was visiting this a neighbor, older couple, and they were watching one of those kind of like popular detective shows that you see a lot on like just normie TV, you know. And the lead actor, I don't know his name, but he's Jewish, and um, you know, in the story, it's always like some white blonde guy who, you know, goes to Harvard or something is actually the real villain, you know. And like and then the the cop is like trying to get this Haitian girl to, you know, get her papers so she can move to America, and he's talking to a judge to like, yeah, yeah, just do me this favor, you know, I'm just talking to you like, you know, like bend the rules, baby, you know, like I can just, you know, we need more of these kind of people. And then he quotes like Martin Luther King, you know, and then like he, you know, the Aryan boy is in jail, and the Jew actor quotes Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche, you know, in saying some kind of snarky, shitty thing to like insult him, you know. And it's like, you know, how they pretend to be us, and they kind of steal our talking points, our culture, our heroes. They pretend to be us, but then twist it around and mutate it into something that we're not. That's against our interests, you know. And if you don't know these things, you can't see them. But I remember, like, I couldn't help but laugh at one point in the during the show, and like the couple, they kind of looked at me uncomfortably, like they could sense that I knew something, that I was like, specifically this thing about like, you know, this police officer, DA, whatever, you know, having a private conversation with the judge so that he could let these Haitians into the country because, you know, I had a dream. I have a dream. The da ba ba. I have a dream. You know, and I'm just like biting my tongue so hard. Like, oh god, this is awful. You know? So I don't know. It's just shit like that. It's just because we're not watching these normie channels and consuming their shit, um, doesn't mean it's not out there and being recycled endlessly for, you know, just people that don't understand that, you know, watching TV is unhealthy for you, basically. You know, which is a lot of mostly older people. Like older people spend a lot of time in front of the TV, a lot of time, and yeah, you know, it's like, but that's that. You're not gonna save the boomers. They're already gone as far as narrative is concerned. You know what I'm saying? Let's read some chats, chatty waddies. What do we got? What do we got? Len Graham is here. Hey, Len, great to have you. Hold on a second. Got to back up a bit. Um, oops, hit something wrong. You said funding art, funding cut. Yeah, funding was cut for the Colbert show, so it got shut down. Len says, "Hi Don, looking forward to the finished article. Which article are we talking about?" Corey says, right. Colbert isn't being replaced. He and his show are going away by reruns. Oh, fuck. Tony Fu says, evil does not create, only corrupts. That is really, really well said. Highly quotable. Look who's here, ladies and gentlemen. Wing It Productions. I have a dream too. Yeah, right. I also don't need desert people to tell me what it is. Thank you. And wow. Yeah. Craig the Man says, did you read the email? Oh, God, I'm so sorry. I've just been working. I apologize, sir. Please forgive me. I'm off tomorrow. I'm making a quick note right now. Check Craig's email. Hold on. Of course, the damn pen fucking dies on me. Come on. See, this is my life. Let's go. Shit. This is like, anyway, I won't explain. Check Craig's email. See? Sunday. Okay. Boop, boop. See how professional I am? Okay, that's going to go with my computer, and therefore I will definitely see it. I apologize, sir. Okay, moving on. What does it say? Corey says, seems boomers have a hard time ever trusting younger people to deliver the news to them. And that's a thing too, because like I will go into, like, I will red pill them. I'll say, okay, this is what's really going on. And the reaction I mostly get is, I can't handle it. I'm shutting down. Like I just, instead of actually fucking responding or thinking or reacting, it's like, oh, I don't want to be bothered by that. Like, oh, that's toxic. That's upsetting. So I don't want to think about it. Like, oh, that's like really frustrating. This kind of like, oh, don't indulge in politics because it's upsetting, like, fucking grow the fuck up, all right, please. Shit. What the fuck? If you don't engage in politics, you will be ruled by your inferiors. That is a quote from some famous guy. I forget who. Anyway, yeah, it's okay. I don't know. I don't really know what I can actually say on that topic. Um, And I don't have the mentality of like, "Oh, fuck boomers." I'm not anti-boomer. I don't want to come off like that. I respect my elders, whatever. But the fact is, like, they are going to, you know, move on to the great beyond, and then the younger generations are going to be, you know, following Nick Fuentes, basically. As far as I can tell, like, okay, so some years ago, Fuentes like annoyed me because he was just like a teenager and would say like, vulgar jokes and shit that I'm like, it just wasn't my cup of tea. But I feel like he's now like the number one voice out there. What did I just see? Oh God. Okay, I was at work. The news was on, and there was, how they have like, there's the mainstream news, and then they'll have like little shows where it's like the Joe Schmo show, and Joe Schmo comes on and talks about politics and has special guests, and it's that kind of after hours, hot take show. Anyway, on the Joe Schmo show, they were showing clips of Alex Jones as reference for news, and it hit me like, wow, maybe Alex Jones, maybe there's a little bit of a segue here. Maybe there's not a segue, a pipeline. You know what I'm trying to say? From like these mainstream Fox News down to maybe not. Maybe I'm just being idealistic. Um, I've always been able to kind of take Alex Jones with a grain of salt. I get his branding and stuff. Um, I'm just really glad that he's not like sort of going the boomer route, and like he's finally admitted that it is Israel. And he's giving a lot of talking time to that. Him and I mean, they're not us per se, right? You know what I'm saying. But you know, any movement is good, I think. And this marker is really bleedy. It's too wet. I can't use that. Um, let's read. Ah, hitting the wrong buttons here. Your fine art comic, Len. I lost the context. Len said something before. So if we can go back. Hi, Don. I'm looking forward to the finished article on my fine art comic. Okay. Who's writing this article? I'm give me some context, but moving on. Just as wing it says, okay, very good, exactly. Got a message being held. We're toxic. Yeah, we can show that. That's not bad. Oh shit! I hit the wrong button. I'm an idiot. I'm having boomer moments here. Many boomers fought the great fight. Yeah, brother wars. I'm not going to outlive this problem. I think it's a common mentality. I understand. I'm not anti-boomer either, but lately it's become more noticeable to me. Hey, hey, to the mighty Flash, Chatelet. I wonder if everybody knows Chatelet. I mean, I know it's sort of an older meme, but it checks out. Alex is total Gen X. Very true. Tony Fu says, I think he is more helpful than harmful. I agree. Flash says, your volume is low compared to other. Ugh, can never win, bro. I can never win. I don't know why my volume is low. I have some music on. Should I turn it off? Can you? And I've got a fan on. So I don't know. Is that the problem? My face is like almost right in front of my phone though. Like if I move away, you'll notice. But maybe I should yell. Oh, what can I tell you? What can I tell you? Anyway, what is going on? You sound clear to me. Okay, well that's good to know. Maybe you have. I mean, maybe you have settings. No. Um, Joe Rogan defended Nick Fuentes when James Talarico said he was a Holocaust denier. I saw a clip of that. That was really cool. That was really cool. And he was basically saying something like Nick Fuentes is just questioning the numbers. And see, there you go. It's that whole like, oh, we got to roll out the guard. You know, we got to roll out the people who keep the narrative in check. Oh, Nick Fuentes is evil. He's a Holocaust denier. And to see that Nick or not Joe Rogan was actually kind of being like, no, no, I don't know about that. And he's like, hey, Jamie, pull that up. That's impressive. That shows some change. You know what I mean? It's granted, I mean, I know it's not all perfect or whatever. I know, obviously. But we have to see these changes. They are significant. As small as something like that is. Before you would not dare question someone who was like, "Oh, he's a Holocaust denier." Oh, yes, yes, he is. Otherwise, you get lynched. You know what I'm saying? But to be like, "Oh no, he's just questioning the numbers," like that's enough right there. That's enough to be like, these things are still questionable. That we're allowed to question these fucking things. You know what I'm saying? So like, that's good. You and there you go. And now you know. Let's get the commercial off. So you guys probably can't hear the music. It's a little too low, I guess. But that's okay. So I don't like prepare things to talk about or whatever. I just turn the camera on, and just hang out. Some nights, like my last couple shows, were really, really good. This stream of conscious, and I don't know, it just all fell together really beautifully. Um, that's nice when that happens. Fuentes Flesh says, I mean, maybe you have said it. No, I think you move away from your mic. Otherwise, sounds good. Uh, you sound clear to me. I'll try to kind of position just get a better position. I think the Muslim demographics does more to repel the current narrative than any talking point. Um, yeah, don't get me started. It's like I could spend another half hour doing like an anti-Muslim rant, basically, and that just gets tiresome, hearing the same thing over and over. Let's see. Craig says he says some stuff I find offensive and destructive to white people, but he said a lot of truth as well and was part of my journey down the rabbit hole. Nick Fuentes, or who are you referring to? Corey says I'm still waiting for all these guys to shift more towards being white positive instead of simply anti-Jew or non-white. So I feel like that's one of the final bosses, so to speak, that anger and outrage are there's so much of it, you know what I'm saying? That it's pretty hard not to feel those things and to be kind of locked in to that. Does that make sense? Um, I think, I mean, I don't know how to say this. Like being sort of white positive or pro white, I guess, more so than anti everyone else, is in many ways more productive, obviously, I'd say so. But it requires a certain frame of mind where you have some sense of peace inside you. And how can we have peace when like jiggers are punching dads holding their babies, and like you know what I mean. I mean, so it's quite hard. It's quite hard to be peaceful in an environment where we're being robbed, raped, and killed and humiliated all the time. So that is the problem. Like, if we can address that, if we can kind of be like, all right, yes, there it is. I get it. There it is. You know, there it is. I get it. You know, like over and over and over. With what's next? What's next? What's next? Do we have to continue forever and ever and ever? Just like it's kind of outrage porn. You know what I'm saying? And I do it every day. I'm like I'm into that, but not. I don't mean into that like it's a hobby. I mean that I do it because it's part of like the world that we live in. Like it's just facing the truth of things. But it it definitely can become like I don't know how to put it, like a kind of political ghetto in a way, you know? Like you're ghettoizing yourself a bit if you just overindulge in that. And unfortunately the dissident right is really, really mired in that, like deeply mired in that. Now a lot of it is sort of like we make really funny memes and videos and shit that help us cope with that pain. And I share that stuff all the time with my homies, you know, or my buddies. We're constantly sharing like, you know, shit lording videos with each other. And a lot of them are really funny. Some of them are really like offensive or outrageous, but it's just a subculture, you know. But again, I feel like the positive thing, this sort of, you know, to be white positive is kind of more for adults. You know what I'm sort of saying? Like there's a kind of you gotta hit a certain stride where you're like, you know what? I can't just keep doing this over and over and over and over and over. Like, what's next? I gotta move on and do something constructive. You know, um, I hope that I mean, I feel personally that that's a thing. You know, um, because I feel like the people who are more attuned with, say, Jason Kuna's message tend to be a little older, and they kind of you know what I'm saying? And maybe they didn't come into the movement through some kind of offensive South Park type online culture, you know, some kind of back pages of something or other, you know. I don't know. That's a tough question. It would be actually interesting to see how Jason's audience came to him and compare that to, say, you know, the people that I know, the younger guys in their 20s and whatnot, that, you know, are really, really hardcore, you know, like openly racist type people. Um, I'll never call myself a racist. I always call myself a race realist. And I think that it's normal to be angry and even hateful towards people that hate you. And it's a human reaction. It's in many ways a kind of a biological self defense. If you don't hate the thing that is destroying you, then what the fuck is wrong with you? There's something very deeply wrong with you. If you don't hate the thing that is killing those who you love, then you're not really a man in many ways, if you think of it that way. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, you've got to take into effect or consideration your spiritual health, your mental health, things of this nature. You know, and then even politically, there's this sort of like where how is this useful? Like how can I apply this energy? So there's a video that I did you can look up. It's called On Hate, and it's a look at Kai Moros's lecture on hatred and what is hatred in terms of how does it function in the revolutionary spirit, blah 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 blah, and it's really really good. It's something I strongly recommend people check out that video. Um, it goes deep on that topic and stuff. But my whole thing is like when you just simply say the biological truth of like race relations and crime statistics, people will normies and leftists will automatically call you racist because you said the fucking truth. And like they're too stupid to get it when you say saying the truth is not racist. Saying the truth is not racist. What it is it's you shattered their little bubble, their little illusion, the whatever the culture that they bought into, where everybody goes along to get along and they all agree on this fantasy horseshit. And they hate that. They don't like that. That's painful for them to experience the truth. And so they attack you naturally. That's just like the normal. And then, of course, I reply by saying, insults are not arguments, and therefore you lose. Therefore, you're wrong. And they're so used to being in a culture where people police each other, and if you say something wrong and you're insulted over it, then you'll shut up. You'll fall back in line. You know what I mean? But we don't do that, and they can't handle that. They can't handle that. But anyway, I'm going off in like a lot of different directions here. I do, and I think being white positive is really really vital and essential. At the same time, I don't want it to turn into like a hate has no home here kind of like liberal gayness, if you understand what I'm trying to say. It's like, oh, that's not hatred has no home here. Duh, like that kind of like sissy fake liberal mentality does not have any place in our movement. Um, but to take it in another direction, white positive is how do I say? It's kind of like how do I say this? We're starving for white positivity. We're desperate for white positivity. We live in a political culture where we're being demoralized 24/7 all the time, legally, culturally, on and on and on and on, and it's nonstop, and it's deep. It's a very terrible problem. So we really need to switch gears and get more into white positivity, to save our people, to get our people to be proud of themselves, love themselves, treat each other as one. um that's harder to do than to be like, posting shitlording stuff, like saying edgy memes or whatever, like singing Kanye songs or something. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's fun, it's fun to do, and it takes the edge off. It's got that kind of like, that's our dissident right culture. But I think so much more time needs to be put into thinking through like what can we do to remoralize, re-energize, educate, love, and care for our people. That's white positivity. You know what I'm saying? Um, Celebrate being who we are. What's his name? Who's the black guy? Jesse. Fucking help me out, Hippocratic Oath. Jesse Lee Peterson. Is that his name? No, I'm mixing Jordan Peterson with Jesse Lee something or other. I forget his name. He's a black dude. He's super white positive. He started White History Month. I don't know if you're aware of that. I mean, started. It's not official. It's not like a government thing. You guys help me out. You know who I'm talking about. What's his name again? Jesse Lee Peterson. Okay, I'm mixing that with Jordan Peterson. Um, that guy does more for white positivity than like the entire dissident right. Um, it's always that sort of like, well, black people can say things we can't say or whatever. But we're fucking angry. We're really, really, really angry, and we have obviously every fucking right in the world to be angry. But once again, like, what is the alchemy of anger? You know what I mean? How is that? It's an important thing. I think of it like rocket fuel. You got to have the anger, but you don't. You put the fuel in the fuel tank. You don't drink it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to use it appropriately, use it cautiously. Does that make sense? I think that's actually a fair assessment. Oh, I should congratulate myself. Good job, Don. I'm being way positive. Anyway, I'll go back. I'm sorry, I'm just making a little joke. Let's read. We got some hot discussion going on in the chatteroonie. Welcome to Mr. Great White Ape. You crazy guy. Hate is a byproduct of love. That's really powerful. Flash always there with an amazing commentary. Boy, that's a lot to read. Okay, the enemy wants us angry and hateful. Ooh, Corey Wolke. Oh, you're giving him a thing. All right, sorry. Wow, man, you guys are flying on the chat. I don't know if I can read all of this. Okay, stopped at the Muslim demographic. He says some stuff. I found it. I read that. White positive. That would be wise. That is what Jason Kuhn is trying to do. Yes, Nick Fuentes. Okay. The enemy wants us angry and hateful, isolates and balances us. Well, it also puts us into that, like, we become the meme of the angry racist. They're like, oh, see how much they hate you. Oh, look, see what we told you. Like, it's fucked up. It's kind of like someone slaps you to make you angry, and then you get angry, and then they say, oh, see, look, I told you were angry, you fucker. You made me feel this way. And they just know how to manipulate that for whatever their gain. So there's a thing there that's more kind of like a media thing that we have to be careful of. And I mean, I'm not trying to, like, I don't give a fuck about liberals and what they think. They're basically hot garbage. There's no saving them. They're fucked. Hold on. No, maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Anyway, Corey says it's not who you're allowed to criticize, but who you're not allowed to defend. Ooh, Jason for the win. Holy shit, that's a really nice switcheroo right there. That's a real nice one. So yeah, there's another expression, take your own side. I don't know. I feel like that's like maybe it's Jared Taylor, I believe, might have coined that. Something about like whites have to take their own side, you know. That's powerful stuff. It's very powerful stuff. Um, um, I gotta read these. They're so amazing. Okay. Hippocratic Oath says, I don't know. Titus saw a problem and took care of business. Even Persia offered to help. Now that problem is back. Okay, well, now we're talking on another level. So many talking points. Craig, I call myself not anti-white enough to appease the unappeasable. Whoa. Craig, Flash says hate is byproduct of love. Yes. Craig, when rebuttaling, it's good to follow up with a question, but not just to control the narrative, but to control the mere conversation. Good point. Phrasing things as questions is always a good way to kind of control conversations per se. You know what I mean? And also to frame your points in ways that make the opponent think, you know. It's all very tricky. A lot of 3D or 12D chess going on there. Okay, let's read. Rebuttals. Spider is another thing about races being violent or I lost my place. Violent is besides the greater point. Them being not us is the basis of why our cultures not don't mix, because they're two different biospirits. So that's totally agreeable. There's nothing wrong with that. The fact that, like, see, this is really a good topic about how, like, I don't know if you want to frame it in like maybe a religious way. You could kind of ask, like, if we're all the same, then why did God make us all different? Like, I mean, if the first question, if I ever get to meet an alien, the first question I'm going to ask is are all the different why do we have so many different races? You always talk about the human race or human beings, blah blah blah, and I'm like, no, we're so different from each other that you can't say human beings. We're not the same. We're very different from each other. You know what I mean? So, like, that's a thing in itself, in and of itself. But I do like the way that Jason is framing that. I think there's definitely something there. Tony Fu. It is a virtue to be upset at justice. True. To be otherwise destroys peace. Your heart is in the right place. How do you decide to separate a page of characters with different illustration frame boxes? Well, that's off topic. I can get to that. I can answer that. A lot of it just simply has to do with the script. It says like this happens and that happens, and then you just illustrate what is in the script. You know what I'm saying? But the page layout is really a form of art. It's a type of it's a way of letting the eye read the page. It's a whole other thing. Jesse is grateful for slavery bringing his ancestors to America. So that one right there, I've had a lot of fun with that. If I'm talking to African American or something online and something's going down or whatever, I'll say, let me ask you this. Would you rather have been born in Africa or America? And they say, oh, hell yeah, America. And then I say, okay, well, you just benefited from slavery. And then they just don't know what to say. They just don't know what to say. And I don't just say that to blacks. And it's not like I'm trying to hurt anybody. I'll say, by the way, white Americans abolished slavery. Okay. And we started that. And like, what about the Africans that sold the slaves and the Jews who ran the ships and the market? But, I'll go through all that stuff. Um, because I'm done. I'm done, 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 done. I will not take another second of anybody trying to like guilt me. Oh man, oh man. When I swear, like, you guys, if you could see me in action, like when somebody, white or non-white, tries to come at me with like slavery, I'd fucking wreck them. I like absolutely wreck them. And it's really glorious to see like a white person stand up for themselves. And I'm not doing it in a mean way. I'm not using racial slurs, and I'm just sort of stating history and facts. That's why I call myself a race realist, because it's kind of like, say, someone who knows about science versus someone who is totally superstitious. If someone's like, oh, if I don't know, the crow flies sideways at noon, then that means you're gonna have bad luck or whatever. No science behind that at all. And you try to talk to somebody like that, you can say, no, that's actually just something something, and I'm not afraid of it. It's kind of like that. It's almost like talking to someone at a witch trial, in Salem or something, where they want to dunk you underwater until the devils leave you. The devils of white positivity. Oh, we must get rid of the devils inside him. White people must be ashamed of themselves. Oh, the narrative is coming apart. Oh, silly times. Silly times. What do we got here? Jesse Grateful, there was a guy from our meme group who went on Jesse's show parroting a libtard. Funny times. Oh, that's phenomenal. Jesse's famous for calling guys beta. Yeah, he's funny. And so I'm like talking to somebody about like, oh, what was it? Oh my God. Well, he was like a liberal, and then he's like, so you're not a man. Why do you choose not to be a man? And the liberal's like, you know, it's like, you're beta, you're not a man. Anyway, whatever, it was funny. Craig says, example of racists are examples of what the word means, who is referring to which makes the rebuttal for the word obvious once you fully have that epiphany. If you were black, what would your rebuttal be for the N word? What's your rebuttal for the R word? I see the strategy here. I think there's something going on. Because like the racist is the N word for white people, right? As is Nazi. You know what I'm saying? Oops, sorry. If you phrase answers as questions, then you need to nail the Yiddish accent. Oh my God, dude, that's funny. Craig says, "Don't get me started with the animal taxonomy. The fight is to win over our own people and to become a people." So Corey nailed that. Because like once everybody finally like opts out of the anti-white system, then that's when the world's going to change. You know what I'm saying? Like we do have to win over our people. And that's, I think, where white positivity comes in. And it's that the very, very strong case for that is pretty much what I'm trying to say. Let me read more. One of our people, when that happens, we won't need a violent physical uprising. Beautiful. We would put our own well-being first. See, that's it right there. I don't know. I mean, I feel like that's beautiful what you just said, because nobody wants violence. And obviously, because of the forces that exist, are violent and have the means for violence, blah blah blah, all of that. You cannot come at it openly with some kind of you know violent approach. Now, of course, the left can, right? Antifa can, and Black Lives Matter can. They can burn cities down, and they can do this, and they can do that, and la 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 la. But again, that doesn't change us and our situation and what we're trying to do, and blah blah blah. So I'm hearing that. I'm hearing that. Because there's always the question of how do we win over our people? How do we win this revolution without violence? And I've had all kinds of ideas about community building that I've tried doing. The disturbing problem is that it's like, okay, two approaches. One, do we kind of trick white people into somehow coming together as white people, which is lame in a way, but at the same time it's like, well, that's the only thing that's going to work. Or are we just openly like pro-white and try to have these whatever, some kind of community based on that. Well, if you do that, then people are, oh my God, I'm not going to be a part of that, it's scary, and what will people think, and I don't know. So it's a massive conundrum. It's a very, very, very big problem. And I don't fully have the answer for that yet. How do you gauge the length of so the Great White Ape is trying to change the conversation. Let's talk about art. Those things are pretty detailed to get into, and I'm kind of not in the mood to talk about that right now. But you just have to learn anatomy, and you have to understand perspective drawing, which means the illusion of space, and so that's how you figure those things out. And after doing it for a long time, it becomes second nature. So, um, the buyers of the slaves treated them better than the sellers. Wow. The best point to make in response to slavery is that the person will blame whites for being one of many to own slaves, but not thank us for being the first and only to officially put an end to it. So that was my thing. Is it's like, honestly, white people deserve reparations. We're the ones, like, all the billions of dollars that we send to Israel. We want that money back. We're going to take that money back. And for all of the people that lived off our tax system and abused our system, we want that money back. It's time. So that's the thing, you know. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I kind of go back and forth. I have that anger, that revolutionary anger, but then I also have a kind of a side that's like, strategically, that's not going to win. We're not going to win with that. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of bounce back and forth between like super hot, kind of like scary hot takes, to like, okay, let's try to take a different approach to this. You know what I'm saying? But I think it has to do with power. Like when you're in power, you can do whatever, but we're not in power. And so we don't have the luxury of like, the Roman Empire and just like send in a bunch of guards to like clean it up. It's not like that. We're in a whole other situation, and at it's very, very critical. We're at a really, really terrible stage. Um, I mean, everywhere I go, I just see the destruction of America. I like the people, white people are not, we're not ourselves. We're somebody else. We're socially engineered. And it's so obvious to me how fucked up we are, how socially engineered we are, how, in a sense, unreal we are, Um, and it's hard. It's very, very surreal just to just walk around and see that. It's kind of almost like, like if say somebody from the 1950s took a time machine to today and walked around and saw the way, like what's normal in life. That's how I walk around. I'm like, fuck, look at that, look at that, look at that over there, look at that over there. Oh God, that's awful. This, that, and the next thing. There's so many things like that. What time is it? 9:12. Well, I got to do some dancing, guys. Let me finish the chat a little bit, and then I'm gonna wrap it up and go have some fun on a Saturday night. Gotta go. Have a good night. Cheers. Um, read that. Corey says I approach white positivity very much like a martial art. Ooh, that now you're speaking my language. It makes the most sense to me in that way. The more effective you become, the better you are at diffusing anti-whiteism without physical violence. So I'm gonna, because I take a martial arts approach to many, many aspects of life, and certainly politics. Um, so that's, I don't know. Maybe we should. I don't know if that's something I'd like to talk about in more depth, but on another show is what I'm trying to say. Okay, the man. I got past preconceived notions. People have so not saying it's generally stopping me from indirectly judging people, but it does affect me in the grand scheme of things. All right, guys, this is it. Hail to you. Hail to our people. Thank you for stimulating some new ideas in me. Good discussion, great talk as usual. Um, I, I'll be honest, I'm not like quote in the Jason camp per se. I think Jason would say that I'm too far right or too not, I don't know use of radical, but like I'm just I don't know how to say this. I don't want to use like dangerous words or whatever, but like I have a stronger approach, I guess is the nice way to say what I'm trying to say. Um it's sort of like pray for peace and prepare for war. That's kind of the where I'm at mentally. Um yeah, I think that's kind of maybe the best thing. That rebuttal, I said yes, that rebuttal is win. But anyway, let's continue talking about these things. Very, very cool stuff. And again, I'm really appreciative of this kind of conversation. This is valuable. This is essential. This is what I'm about, what we're about, what the channel is about, what the community is about. But also, this is a free speech platform. So if people come on and have pushback, be prepared. There might be people that'll be like, fuck that, blah, 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 and like have like a very hardcore attitude towards it. Everybody gets a chance to speak. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel like you're white negative, but I understand what you mean. Yeah, I would never call what I am the white negative. That to me is an absurd label. That our enemies are white negative. They're anti-white. That is white negative, right? I would never ever call myself that or anyone in the movement that. But I do see that there's a discussion about what is the best methodology to win. And so, on that note, God bless you guys. Have a good night. Keep keep the spirit. Keep the good fight, and we'll see you next time. Okay, cheers.